Commander Lisa Hartman stood at the viewport of the human diplomatic vessel, watching the glittering spires of the Galactic Council headquarters grow larger. After decades of being observed by alien races, humanity was finally invited to the table. Lisa smoothed down her uniform, exchanging a look with Ambassador John Miller, who adjusted his tie for the 5th time in as many minutes. "Ready to make history?" John asked, his voice steady despite the pressure weighing on both their shoulders. "As ready as I'll ever be," Lisa replied. "Remember the mission. Fair treatment, equal representation, and mutual respect." The ship docked with a gentle thud. When the airlock doors opened, they were greeted by a delegation of aliens. The lead figure stood nearly 7 feet tall with iridescent blue skin and 4 arms. High Chancellor Vexnar of the Zelteri Federation did not extend any of those arms in greeting. "You are late," Vexnar said, mandibles clicking in apparent annoyance. "The Council has already begun preliminary discussions regarding your situation." John stepped forward with a diplomatic smile. "Our apologies for any delay. We're honored to be here." The walk to the Council chambers was filled with stares from various alien species. Lisa noted that many looked at the humans with expressions that ranged from curiosity to outright disgust. She had studied xenobiology for years in preparation for this moment, but nothing prepared her for the feeling of being seen as a lesser being. The Council chamber itself was massive, with seating for representatives of over 200 species arranged in tiered rings. The humans were directed to small seats at the very bottom level. "The maintenance staff sits higher than us," Lisa whispered to John, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. For the next 3 days, the humans presented their case for fair inclusion in galactic affairs. They outlined humanity's achievements, their willingness to share technologies, and their desire for peaceful cooperation. Each proposal was met with dismissive comments or outright mockery. On the 3rd day, Vexnar presented the Council's terms for human inclusion. "You will be granted observer status for 50 standard cycles. Your ships will require Zelteri inspection before leaving your solar system. All human technology will be submitted for evaluation and possible improvement. Resource-rich planets in your sector will be placed under Council management." The chamber fell silent as the humans reviewed the terms. Lisa felt her face grow hot with anger, but maintained her composure. John stood and addressed the Council with quiet dignity. "Distinguished representatives, we came here seeking partnership based on mutual respect. These terms suggest servitude, not alliance. Therefore, Earth must respectfully decline further participation in these talks." A ripple of surprise moved through the chamber. Vexnar's upper arms gestured dismissively. "You misunderstand, human. These are not negotiable points. Your species has demonstrated aggressive tendencies throughout your history. The Council has determined these safeguards necessary." John's voice remained calm. "We understand perfectly, Chancellor. Humanity withdraws from these proceedings. We will make our own way in the galaxy." Laughter erupted from several Council members. Vexnar's mandibles spread in what Lisa recognized as the Zelteri equivalent of a smirk. "You'll be back begging for scraps soon enough," Vexnar said. "Your primitive species cannot survive without Council protection. The galaxy is far more dangerous than you comprehend." Lisa stepped forward to stand beside John. "Perhaps it is the galaxy that doesn't comprehend humans, Chancellor." The human delegation gathered their materials without another word. As they walked out, the laughter and jeers followed them. Once aboard their ship, Lisa looked at the assembled human team. "Send the coded message to Earth. 2 words. Sleeping giant." John nodded, understanding the historical reference. "They think we're primitive because we're peaceful. They've mistaken patience for weakness." As their ship pulled away from the Council station, no one spoke. The silence wasn't of defeat but of focused determination. Earth would now move forward with plans that had been prepared for exactly this scenario. The galaxy had just made a terrible mistake, but they wouldn't realize it until much too late. 6 months passed without a single transmission from Earth to any Galactic Council world. The silence puzzled many council races. They had expected humans to return quickly, humbled and ready to accept any terms offered. Instead, there was nothing. No diplomatic messages, no trade requests, not even the usual background chatter of human entertainment broadcasts that had leaked into space for centuries. Admiral Frank Cooper stood in the newly constructed orbital shipyard above Earth, watching workers assemble what would become humanity's first true battle cruiser. Around him, 12 similar ships were in various stages of completion. 6 months ago, he had been a simple naval commander. Now he led the rapid militarization of Earth's space forces. "Admiral, the latest reports from Mars colony," said his aide, handing him a tablet. Frank nodded, scanning the information. The colonies on Mars and Europa had cut all contact with alien outposts, focusing instead on expanding their own infrastructure at remarkable speed. New shipyards, research stations, and defense platforms sprouted across the solar system like mushrooms after rain. On Earth, in a deep underground facility, Dr. Olivia Green adjusted her glasses and studied the holographic display before her. The propulsion system she and her team had developed was unlike anything humans had created before. It was based partly on principles they had observed in alien ships, but with significant improvements. "Run the simulation again," she told her team. "I think we can push the efficiency another 12%. A young engineer looked up in surprise. "But doctor, we're already achieving speeds that the council races said were impossible for our tech level." Olivia smiled. "That's exactly why we need to push further. They lied about what was possible. Makes you wonder what else they lied about." The Galactic Council was not entirely ignorant of these developments. Their monitoring probes reported unusual activity throughout Earth's solar system. In the Grand Council chamber, High Chancellor Vexnar reviewed these reports with growing irritation. "What exactly are these humans building?" he demanded of his science advisor. The advisor's forearms moved in a gesture of uncertainty. "The data suggests military vessels, but their design is unusual, not following conventional patterns." Another council member, a reptilian Drex representative, hissed softly. "Perhaps we should send a formal delegation to investigate." Vexinar's mandibles clicked dismissively. "Unnecessary. These are primitive displays of defiance, nothing more. Their technology remains generations behind ours. Let them build their toys." Meanwhile, Earth's governments had achieved something unprecedented in human history: unity of purpose. The Terran Accord brought together every nation under a single defensive alliance. Old enemies now worked side by side, sharing resources and knowledge. In the White House Situation Room, President Samantha Bennett met with leaders from Russia, China, the European Union, and 30 other nations via secure holographic link. "Phase 1 is complete," she informed them. "Our solar system is secured from immediate threats." Admiral Cooper reports the defense grid will be fully operational within 2 weeks. The Russian president nodded. "Our Siberian facilities have doubled production of the special alloys," Dr. Green requested. "China's quantum computing centers are working around the clock on the encryption systems," added the Chinese premier. President Bennett looked at each face in turn. "We all agreed that humanity would not be treated as second-class citizens in this galaxy. The aliens gave us a choice between submission or isolation. They never considered a third option." "Because they don't understand humans," said the Indian Prime Minister with a slight smile. "When backed into a corner, we don't just fight back. We change the rules of the game." Out at the edge of the solar system, automated probes detected an alien scout ship performing long-range scans. The humans allowed it to observe, to report back what they wanted the Council to see. The true preparations remained hidden. Research stations buried in asteroids, shipyards on the far side of moons, and revolutionary technologies developed in secret Earth facilities. The galaxy believed humans were sulking in isolation. Soon, they would learn how badly they had misjudged humanity's response to being disrespected. The silent preparations continued, methodical and purposeful, guided by a simple philosophy that Admiral Cooper had posted in every human facility. They expect us to beg. Let's prepare to bargain instead. From a position of strength, Chief Strategist Paul Winters stepped into the dimly lit war room beneath the Pentagon. The walls displayed holographic maps of the galaxy, with bright lines showing trade routes and pulsing dots marking resource-rich areas. 8 months had passed since humanity walked away from the Galactic Council, and now it was time for the next phase. Operation Choke Point is ready to begin, Paul announced to the gathered military and civilian leaders. We've identified 23 key resources that the Council races depend on, and we know exactly where to find them. Admiral Cooper nodded. My ships are ready. The new cloaking technology is working perfectly. We can be at the first target in 3 days. President Bennett studied the map thoughtfully, and we're certain these areas aren't heavily defended. The Council races never expected competition, Paul explained. They'd grown lazy and complacent. These mining operations have minimal security because no one has ever challenged them before. In the engineering bay of the lead ship, engineer Maria Rodriguez made final adjustments to her revolutionary mining equipment. Traditional alien mining took months to extract valuable minerals. Her machines could do the same job in days, while leaving less environmental damage. This will change everything, she told her team as they loaded the equipment. We're not just taking resources, we're showing the galaxy a better way to obtain them. The human fleet departed Earth under cover of darkness. They split into smaller groups, each targeting different resources across multiple systems. The Council had never considered humans a threat, so their monitoring of Earth's solar system was minimal. By the time the first human ships arrived at an uninhabited planet rich with element 935, no alarm had been raised. Maria's mining equipment deployed with impressive efficiency. Within 2 days, they had extracted more of the rare element than the aliens collected in a standard year. The ships moved on to their next target before any Council vessels could investigate reports of unusual activity. Meanwhile, on Earth, CEO Howard Vex of the newly formed Vex Corporation gathered his research team. They had spent months studying alien luxury goods and developing synthetic alternatives. The samples are ready for distribution, announced his lead scientist. Our artificial replacement for Zaltari silk is indistinguishable from the real thing, and we can produce it at 1/10 the cost. Howard smiled. Begin production immediately. Target the smaller independent worlds first. They've always resented paying high prices to the Zaltari. Within weeks, human traders began appearing at remote outposts and smaller alien worlds. They offered their goods at prices that undercut the Council races dramatically. Many species were hesitant at first, but curiosity and economic sense won out. Soon, human products gained a reputation for quality and value. On the Galactic Council station, the first reports of supply shortages began to arrive. High Chancellor Vexnar listened with growing concern as trade ministers from various species described disruptions. How can humans be responsible? He demanded. They have no presence beyond their own system. A trade minister from the Juraxian Collective stepped forward. That's no longer accurate, Chancellor. Human ships have been sighted at mining sites across 3 sectors. They're extracting resources at unprecedented rates. And their manufactured goods are appearing in markets everywhere, added another representative. My people can now buy synthetic quantum crystals at half the price we charge. Vexinar's mandibles clicked in agitation. This is merely an annoyance. The Council controls thousands of worlds. A handful of human ships cannot possibly affect our economy. Even as he spoke, a delegation from the Praean Alliance, a small group of worlds on the Outer Rim, requested a private meeting with him. When they arrived, their spokesperson was direct. We are formally notifying the Council that we have signed a trade agreement with Earth. They have offered us mining technology and fair prices for our agricultural exports. You would betray the Council for human trinkets. Vexnar asked, his voice cold with anger. The Praean representative stood tall. We are choosing economic survival. Perhaps if the Council had offered the same fair terms, we wouldn't need to look elsewhere. As the Prions left, reports arrived of 3 more species seeking direct talks with humans. The resource squeeze had begun, and for the first time, worry crept into the Council chambers. What had started as a minor irritation was quickly becoming a genuine threat. 1 year after humanity walked away from the Galactic Council talks, Dr. Alan Wright stood in his laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains. On the table before him lay technology that would change everything. His team had spent months reverse engineering alien devices, but they hadn't stopped at mere copies. They had improved upon the designs in ways the original creators never imagined. "Is the UES Defiance ready for the demonstration?" he asked his assistant. "Captain Bell reports all systems are green," she replied. "The new FTL drive is installed and fully calibrated." Alan nodded. It was time to show the galaxy what humans could really do. The UES Defiance was humanity's newest warship, sleek and powerful. Captain Susan Bell walked through its corridors, checking systems and speaking with her crew before the big test. Unlike the bulky alien vessels, the Defiance was elegant and efficient, with no wasted space or materials. "All departments report ready, Captain," her first officer said. Susan took her seat in the command chair. "Then let's make history. Engage the right drive." The ship hummed as power flowed to the new faster-than-light engine. Outside, stars blurred and stretched. In previous human ships, FTL travel was rough and slow. With the right drive, the journey was smooth and incredibly fast. The Defiance traveled to Jupiter and back in minutes, a trip that would take older human ships hours and alien vessels nearly a day. Susan smiled. "Send the signal. Let's make sure our audience is watching." The demonstration was no accident. Humans had leaked information about the test to ensure Council observers were present. Probes from 3 major alien powers recorded the Defiance's incredible speed and relayed the information back to their governments. In the Galactic Council chamber, the mood was tense as the recordings played. High Chancellor Vexnar watched with mandibles tightly clenched. "Impossible," he muttered. "Their technology was primitive just a year ago." An advisor leaned close to him. "There's more, Chancellor. We've detected advanced defense systems around all human colonies, and their mining operations now extract resources 5 times faster than our best methods." Before Vexnar could respond, a council member from the Eltharian Republic stood. "Chancellor, my government is formally withdrawing from the Council's unified position on humanity. We have signed a technology exchange agreement with Earth." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Eltharians were a respected elder race. "You would betray us for human trinkets?" Vexnar demanded. The Eltharian representative's voice was calm but firm. "We recognize innovation and potential when we see it. Humans offered us fair terms and mutual respect, something the Council failed to provide them." By day's end, 7 more species had announced similar positions. The Council was beginning to fracture. Back on Earth, military exercises demonstrated the tactical superiority of human ships. Under Captain Bell's command, a small fleet of 5 vessels outmaneuvered and neutralized target drones, designed to mimic Council warships. The training was recorded and, like the FTL demonstration, strategically leaked to alien observers. President Bennett met with her advisors to review the situation. "How are other species responding to our demonstrations?" "Exactly as expected," Paul Winters reported. "The smaller, previously oppressed races see us as potential allies. The dominant Council races are frightened and divided on how to respond." "And this Altari?" she asked. "They finally sent diplomats requesting a meeting," Admiral Cooper said with a slight smile. "They're waiting at the Mars colony outpost right now." President Bennett's expression remained serious. "Let them wait." For 3 days, exactly how long they made our people wait before the original Council meeting. Then inform them that Earth is not currently accepting diplomatic visitors. On the view screen, images showed human colonies thriving across the solar system. Defense platforms bristled with weapons that hadn't existed a year ago. Trading ships departed daily for distant stars, carrying human goods and returning with alien resources. "We asked for respect," President Bennett said quietly. "Now we've earned it. The question is, what will we do with it?" The answer was already taking shape as more alien species broke away from the Council each day. Humanity wasn't just catching up to galactic standards. They were rewriting them. Alarms blared throughout Ganymede Colony as the attack began. Commander Peter Lewis raced to the Defense Command Center, his face grim but determined. The Draxon high ships had appeared suddenly, dropping out of faster-than-light travel dangerously close to the moon's surface. "Status report," Peter ordered as he entered the command center. "6 Draxon warships approaching fast," responded his second-in-command. "They're ignoring all communication attempts." Peter nodded calmly. "Activate the Sentinel defense grid. Hold the automated response until they fire first." The colony's residents had already moved to underground shelters. Above them, hidden defense platforms powered up silently. The Draxon ships formed an attack pattern and launched their first volley of energy weapons. Not a single shot reached the colony. A shimmering energy field appeared, absorbing the attack completely. Then the human defenses responded. Precision beam weapons fired from dozens of hidden positions, targeting the Draxon ship's engines and weapon systems without destroying the vessels completely. "Sir, we're receiving surrender signals from 2 Draxon ships. The others are attempting to retreat," reported the tactical officer. Peter allowed himself a small smile. "Disable their engines but avoid casualties if possible." Within 20 minutes, the attack was over. All 6 Draxon ships floated helplessly above Ganymede, disabled but largely intact. The entire colony had suffered 0 casualties and minimal damage to outer structures. Lieutenant Karen Bailey approached Commander Lewis with a datapad. "Sir, we've intercepted communications between the Draxon fleet and their base. They were hired to attack us." "By whom?" Peter asked, though he already suspected the answer. Karen's eyes narrowed. "The Zeltari. We have proof." The evidence was clear: encrypted transmissions, financial records, and direct orders from Zeltari military officials to the Draxon hive. The attack had been meant to humble humanity, to show the galaxy that Earth couldn't protect its colonies without Council support. Instead, it had proven the opposite. President Bennett studied the report from Ganymede with her Security Council. "The Zeltari expected us to respond with direct aggression against them," she said. "They wanted to paint us as the violent species they always claimed we were." "What will we do instead?" asked Admiral Cooper. Paul Winters stepped forward with a different proposal. "The Siphons have suffered under Draxon raids for centuries. The Council always ignored their pleas for help. What if we didn't?" 2 weeks later, human training ships arrived at Siphon homeworlds. They brought defensive technology, weapons, and military advisors. The Siphons, a peaceful but technically advanced species, were quick learners. "Your people have endured Draxon attacks for too long," said the human instructor to a group of Siphon defense volunteers. "We're not here to fight your battles. We're here to help you fight your own." Within 2 months, Draxon raiders encountered something they had never faced before. Prepared and well-equipped Siphon defenders, raids that had once been easy turned deadly for the attackers. As Draxon ships retreated in disarray, the news spread quickly through the galaxy. In the Galactic Council chamber, representatives argued loudly. The Zeltari delegation faced accusations from multiple species. "You hired mercenaries to attack humans," said the Eltharian representative. "And now you've lost control of the situation." High Chancellor Vexnar's mandibles clicked nervously. "We were merely containing a threat to galactic stability." "The only threat to stability is the Council's arrogance," replied another delegate. "While you were provoking humans, they were helping the Siphons defend themselves against actual aggressors." Throughout the chamber, more representatives stood to announce their withdrawal from the Council's unified position. Some openly declared new alliances with Earth. Others simply stated they would pursue independent relations without Council approval. Back on Earth, Lieutenant Bailey presented her findings to President Bennett and the Security Council. "Then we'll continue our current strategy," President Bennett replied firmly. "For each species they turn against us, we'll find two that have suffered under Council neglect." Paul Winters nodded in agreement. "The Zelteri don't understand what they've started. They expected a direct war they could condemn. Instead, they're watching their control of the galaxy crumble one alliance at a time." As human ships continued to appear at previously forgotten worlds, bringing technology and training rather than conquest, the Council's authority weakened daily. The proxy conflict had backfired completely. Rather than isolating humanity, it had positioned Earth as the champion of the oppressed. Director Nancy Clark stood at the observation window of the massive space station that served as headquarters for the Interstellar Commerce Initiative. Below her, dozens of ships from various alien species docked and departed in an endless dance of commerce. Just 18 months after walking away from the Galactic Council talks, humans had established the busiest trading hub in 3 sectors. "The quarterly reports are ready, Director," said her assistant, handing her a datapad. Nancy smiled as she reviewed the numbers. Human currencies, particularly the United Earth credit, had become the preferred medium of exchange across huge portions of the galaxy. Trade volume had increased by 400% in just the last 3 months. "Have we received a response from the Zelteri financial delegation?" she asked. Her assistant nodded. "They're still requesting an emergency meeting. Their economy is showing severe signs of strain." "Schedule them for next week," Nancy replied. "And make sure they understand our terms. Any meeting includes representatives from all our trading partners, not just Earth." Across the galaxy, human entertainment and culture spread like wildfire. Alien species found themselves fascinated by Earth music, art, films, and literature. What had begun as curiosity had become a genuine cultural phenomenon. On the planet Drixia, a crowd of bird-like aliens gathered outside a newly opened Earth cafe, where human foods, drinks, and music created an immersive experience. The line stretched for blocks, despite the establishment's high prices. "I can understand the appeal," muttered a Zelteri diplomat to his aide as they passed the crowd. "It's just primitive sensory stimulation." His aide, younger and more open-minded, shrugged. "The humans understand something we don't: how to make business feel personal. They trade not just goods but experiences." Meanwhile, food scientist Greg Johnson traveled to worlds that had long struggled with resource shortages. On the desert planet Kryvax, he met with local agricultural leaders. "These modified Earth crops will grow in your soil with minimal water," he explained, showing them simple but effective farming techniques. "Within 1 growing season, you could double your food production." The Kryvaxian leader looked at the samples with hope in her 4 eyes. "The Council told us for centuries that our world was too harsh for efficient farming, that we would always need to import food at their prices." Greg smiled. "They were wrong. Or perhaps they just didn't want to help you become self-sufficient." Similar scenes played out across dozens of worlds as humans shared agricultural knowledge, water purification techniques, and sustainable energy systems with species the Council had kept dependent. On Zeltera Prime, the Zelteri homeworld, economic advisors delivered grim news to their leadership council. "Our luxury exports have declined by 60%, reported the chief financial minister. "The synthetic alternatives from Earth are capturing our markets." Meanwhile, 17 resource worlds have canceled their exclusive contracts with us in favor of human trade deals. High Chancellor Vexinar's mandibles clicked in agitation. "This is temporary. The novelty of human goods will fade." "The data suggests otherwise," replied the minister. "Their trade practices are simply more attractive. They offer fair prices, technology sharing, and mutual defense agreements. We offered only protection payments and exploitation." Outside the government buildings, public protests had become common. Ordinary Zelteri citizens demanded economic reform and reopened relations with Earth. Similar unrest spread across other council worlds as populations realized how much their leaders had withheld from them. In a secure conference room on Earth, President Bennett met with Director Clark and other leaders of the human expansion. The council races are approaching economic collapse faster than we anticipated, Nancy reported. They built their entire system on controlling resources and keeping other species dependent. When that control shattered, they had no backup plan. President Bennett nodded solemnly. And the smaller species, the ones who've allied with us. Paul Winters displayed a galactic map showing economic growth patterns. Thriving beyond all projections, the Eltharians have doubled their standard of living. The Cephans are expanding to new colonies with our help. Even the Kravaxians are exporting food for the first time in their history. Then we're ready for the next phase, President Bennett said. It's time to formalize what's already happening. Send the announcement to all our allied worlds. The message that went out that day was simple but revolutionary. Earth was proposing a new type of interstellar alliance, one based on equal representation and mutual benefit rather than domination. They called it the Galactic Cooperative, and invitations went out to every species, even those still aligned with the Council. The response was immediate and overwhelming. The galaxy was ready for change. The Grand Hall of the Galactic Council stood half empty, where once hundreds of representatives had gathered. Now barely 50 remained. High Chancellor Vexnar watched helplessly as another delegation formally announced their withdrawal. The Moktaran Alliance thanks the Council for its past leadership, but we must follow a path that better serves our people, said their ambassador before turning and walking out. That made 28 species to leave in the past week alone. The Council was collapsing faster than anyone had predicted. A junior aide approached Vexnar nervously. Chancellor, the citizens are gathering outside. They're demanding your resignation. Before Vexnar could respond, the chamber doors burst open. A group of senior Zeltari officials entered, flanked by security forces. High Chancellor Vexnar announced the leader of the group. By order of the Zeltari High Command, you are removed from office effective immediately. Your policies have brought our civilization to the brink of ruin. As Vexnar was escorted away, screens around the chamber displayed news from across the galaxy. The Galactic Cooperative, led by humanity, had already welcomed over 100 species. Former enemies now worked together, sharing resources and technology that the Council had previously controlled. Meanwhile, Admiral Frank Cooper stood on the bridge of the UES Defiance as it led a fleet of human ships through what had once been exclusive Council space. They called it a freedom of navigation exercise, but everyone understood its real purpose: to demonstrate that the old rules no longer applied. Admiral, we're being hailed by the Zeltari border station, reported his communications officer. Frank nodded. On screen, the Zeltari officer appeared nervous. Human vessels, you are entering protected Council territory. Frank smiled politely. We're simply exercising the right of peaceful passage as guaranteed by the new cooperative treaty. Your acting government signed it yesterday. The Zeltari officer looked shocked. Clearly, not all parts of their government were communicating well during the transition. The human fleet continued its journey unmolested, passing within view of worlds that had never seen Earth ships before. At the diplomatic offices on Mars Colony, Representative Carol Wilson received a steady stream of alien delegations. Today, she met with ambassadors from 15 different species, all with the same request. Our worlds have suffered raids from pirates and slavers for generations, explained the Torvian ambassador. The Council always promised protection but never delivered. We seek membership in your defense network. Carol reviewed their application carefully. The cooperative doesn't control its members. We offer mutual defense, not dominance. Your people would need to contribute to the collective security. We are small, but willing, replied the ambassador. Even our limited resources would be better used together than alone. By day's end, all 15 applications had been approved. The cooperative continued to grow, not through conquest, but through willing partnership. On Earth, President Bennett addressed the global leadership about recent developments. The remaining council members are preparing for war, she reported. They believe we plan to attack them directly. Admiral Cooper shook his head. They still don't understand us. Even now, they expect us to behave as they would. Then let's surprise them again, suggested Paul Winters. Instead of the attack they fear, let's invite them to join us. The invitation went out across all communication channels, a proposal for a galaxy-wide summit on Earth, open to all species regardless of past affiliations. The message was translated into hundreds of languages and dialects. We stand at a crossroads. President Bennett's recorded message stated, "The old way of domination and control is ending. We invite all who wish to build a better future to join us, not as subjects, but as partners." The response was immediate. Species that had remained loyal to the Council out of fear now saw a chance to change sides without losing face. Even among the core Council worlds, public pressure mounted to accept the invitation. The once mighty Galactic Council headquarters on Zelterra Prime had become a nearly abandoned complex. In the main chamber where Vexnar had once dismissed humans as primitive, temporary officials scrambled to draft a response to Earth's invitation. "We have no choice," admitted the acting Zelteri leader. "We must attend this summit or face complete isolation." What had begun with humans walking away from talks was now forcing the galaxy to come to them instead. 5 years after walking away from the Galactic Council talks, Earth had transformed. The new Galactic Cooperative headquarters rose from the plains outside Geneva, a gleaming structure of crystal and metal that combined architectural styles from 100 worlds. Today, it hosted the first official Galactic Cooperative Summit, with representatives from over 300 species in attendance. Ambassador John Miller stood at the entrance, welcoming delegates as they arrived. He had aged since that first disastrous council meeting, with more gray in his hair and lines around his eyes. But there was a quiet satisfaction in his expression as he greeted each representative with respect, regardless of their species or past allegiances. "The Zelteri delegation has arrived," an aide informed him quietly. John nodded and straightened his tie. This would be interesting. The new Zelteri leadership approached cautiously. Their head diplomat, a younger female named Xeltana, stepped forward with her 4 arms held in a gesture of peace. "Ambassador Miller," she said, her voice steady but humble. "On behalf of the reformed Zelteri Federation, I extend our deepest apologies for our past behavior toward humanity. We request formal consideration for membership in the cooperative." John maintained his diplomatic composure, but his eyes showed a glint of satisfaction. "Your request will be given full and fair consideration, Ambassador Xeltana. Welcome to Earth." Inside the Grand Assembly Hall, President Bennett opened the proceedings. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat together, not arranged by power or status as the old council had been, but in simple alphabetical order by species name. 5 years ago, humanity was told we were not worthy of equal standing in the galactic community, President Bennett began. "Today, we gather not as rulers and subjects, but as partners in a new type of alliance. The cooperative exists not to control, but to connect. Not to dominate, but to elevate all who join us." The summit's first order of business was to ratify the cooperative charter. Its principles were straightforward: self-determination for all member worlds, mutual defense against aggressors, fair trade practices, and shared technological advancement. When the Zelteri delegation's membership application was presented, many expected humanity to reject it or impose harsh terms. Instead, Ambassador Miller proposed their acceptance with the same standard requirements as any other member. "We did not create the cooperative to punish past wrongs," John explained to the assembly. "We built it to prevent future ones. The Zelteri have reformed their government and accepted our principles. They deserve the same chance as anyone else." The vote passed with overwhelming support. As the summit continued, working groups formed to address various challenges facing the galaxy. Earth representatives participated but did not dominate the discussions. The human approach of collaboration rather than control continued to impress even former skeptics. On the final day of the summit, Commander Lisa Hartman, now an admiral, joined John Miller on the observation balcony overlooking the main hall. Below them, representatives from hundreds of worlds mingled freely, forming connections that would have been impossible under the old system. "Remember when Vexnar said we'd be back begging for scraps?" Lisa asked with a smile. John nodded. He never understood what we really wanted. It wasn't power over others. It was just respect. "And now we have more than that," Lisa said, gesturing to the scene below. Former enemies trading ideas, species that never spoke to each other working together. The galaxy is actually at peace for the first time in recorded history. A group of young aliens approached them cautiously. They were students from various worlds, studying at the new cooperative university in Geneva. "Admiral Hartman, Ambassador Miller," one of them said nervously. "We're doing a project on the foundation of the cooperative. Could you tell us what you think was the most important moment in making all this happen?" Lisa and John exchanged a knowing look before Lisa answered. "It was the moment we walked away," she said simply. "Sometimes in life, you have to be willing to walk away from a bad deal to find those who truly want to walk with you." As the sun set over the new headquarters, ships from hundreds of worlds filled Earth's skies. The planet that had once been dismissed as primitive now stood at the center of a peaceful galactic renaissance, not through conquest or domination, but through the simple human principle that had guided them from the beginning. Respect must be earned, never demanded. And in the end, the galaxy had learned this lesson the hard way.